Good morning to you, Tiana. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm fine. I would like some sun, but I'm okay.
It is good to have you here on 103.1 FM this morning.
Good to be here, too.
So this morning, we'll be talking about the need to collect receipts, refund, and returns. But first of all, for those who don't know, can you briefly explain the mandate of CCAC?
Okay. Well, the CCAC, and I'm glad that you abbreviated it, is the Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission. A long word to call, so we want people to get accustomed to saying CCAC and know that it's the Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission. And our mandate is to manage and enforce the Consumer and Fair Trading Act number 11 of 2006 and the Consumer Affairs Act number 13 of 2011. Much said, what we do is to enforce the laws that offers protection to consumers across Guyana. We have the mandate to do that.
Okay. And now, as I said before, you're here to talk about the need to collect receipts, refund, and returns this morning. Let's look at receipts. What are receipts and why is it important to collect and keep them?
All right. Your receipt is your proof of purchase. And so that is why it is important for you to collect a receipt every time you make a purchase. Especially if you make a purchase. Well, all the time. But more so if you make a purchase of something of significant value. And that receipt is your proof of purchase. Could you imagine you buy something and you have an issue with it and you go back to the supplier or the owner of that business and you say, look, I bought this item from you and there's this issue. And they say, you bought it from me? You don't have a receipt. They can challenge you. That wasn't bought from me. What is your proof that you purchased that item from me? So it is important for you to, every time, and it's the law too, it's not just important, it's the law, for a supplier to provide you, the duty of the supplier, to provide you with a receipt every time you make a purchase. And not just a receipt, and it just gives you a receipt that way. There are three things that the law says you must have on the receipt. It must have the details of what you purchased. It must have the price, inclusive of VAT. And it must have the date of purchase. So you want a description of the goods or the service. Because the thing is, we look at durable goods and services. We don't look at food, we look at durable goods and services. So it might be a service, or it might be a good that you bought. And so they should state one stereo system, Panasonic, 120 volts, black, maybe 2 speakers, as much details as is possible. The purchase price, VAT inclusive, and the VAT should be separate. And the date of the purchase. We want to let consumers know that you should not cheat yourself by agreeing to not collect a receipt from a supplier in exchange for a cheaper price. That cheaper price is usually the exclusion of the VAT amount. You're doing two things there. You're cheating yourself and you're cheating the government tax collection coffers. So you should not make that arrangement. We know that for a fact. I've experienced that. I've gone to stores. You ask the purchaser, I can give you it at a lower cost. But you don't get a receipt.
Okay, great. And when it comes to returning goods, under what conditions can consumer do this?
All right. We want consumers to know, yes, you have a right to return goods should there be an issue or should you no longer want that particular good. So you have two conditions. Where you buy it and maybe you change your mind, you don't want it anymore, you can return it. Or if you buy it and you recognize that it is defective, you can return it also. But there are two different conditions for that. One, if you're returning a good that you purchased and you're no longer interested in, you have 7 days to return that product. And that product should be returned unused, not tampered with, and it must be in its original package. And that supplier, that business owner, can take up to 10% restocking fee. So he takes 10% of the original price that you paid. That is what the Consumer Affairs Act says. That is what is in the Consumer Affairs Act. And you have 7 days to take that back. However, if you bought an item that has some defect, you may not recognize it within the 7 days. Right? So that when you recognize that there's a defect, if you recognize, you can take it back. And there's no charge, there's no restocking fee there. They're given a chance to repair in the first place. If 14 days passes and they do not repair it within that time, they have to give you one of the same to use during the period until they're finished. If they still can't, then they'll have to give you a refund or a new, replace the item.
Okay, great. If you're now tuning in, this is News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. I'm Tiana Jordan, and I'm speaking with the Communications Officer for CCAC, Miss Alison Parker. And now moving on, Miss Parker. Let's say that there's a store that has a no refund or goods not refundable sign. What should the consumer do, assuming that they wanted a refund for something? All
right. We want to tell consumers, when you see those signs in the store, that's illegal. That also is written in the Act. It is illegal to have up that sign. Once you notice that we have so many stores in this country now, we have stiff competition in terms of goods and services. And if you go to a store that insists that they wouldn't do a return or a refund should something happen, do not buy from that store. The second thing we're going to ask you to do is to report to us at the Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission, so our inspectors can make a visit to that store and have them remove that sign, not only remove it, but comply with the laws of Guyana, which is in the Consumer Affairs Act. Consumers can call us on 219-4410, and that goes up to 3, or they can email us at info@ccac.gov.gy. We want to say, I'm telling you all that you should and you should not do in terms of refund and return and receipts and so on. But should you find or should you experience somebody who is not complying with that law, what you can do, because as we said, we're here to administer and enforce the Consumer Affairs Act. So what you should do after you have that issue and you're not having it dealt with by the supplier, the next thing you should do is to make contact with us and let us seek redress for you. Again, you can call us on that same number, 219-44103, or you can file a complaint via our website. There's a complaint form there, so we have made it easy. You click on that complaint form, and you fill out the information as required. We will make contact with you and take it from there. Our investigators will take it from there. Our website, ccac.gov.gy. We are an agency of the Ministry of Tourism, Industry, and Commerce. And so we will take it from there for you. Our investigators will, of course, investigate, and we take it to completion.
Okay, Ms. Parker. And you mentioned investigate. What's the process of investigating a consumer complaint?
All right, so you make your complaint. If sometimes people make complaints to us and it's not really for us. It might be a food issue or so on. If that's the case, we indicate to you and we refer to the relevant agency. Once you make the complaint with us, we check for infringement of the Consumer Affairs Act. Then we assign an investigator to conduct an investigation to check to see. You may come to us and you say, you know what, I bought this item and no, it's not working. I didn't do anything to damage it. It just stopped working. There is obviously some defect. Our investigators will take that complaint. What we will do, we have some expert technical consultants who work with us, because we wouldn't be able to, let's say it's a sewing machine. We don't have the expertise here to check to see if it's a defect. So we have with us a group of technical experts in different technical areas. And so we get that person to check to see if it's a defect. Based on their findings, we give the feedback to the complainant and the supplier. If it is a manufacturer's defect, we work an arrangement with the store to have that rectified. If it is the consumer's negligence, well, we indicate to them what we have found. It's not a manufacturer's defect, it's their negligence, and therefore you will not be able to get redress from the supplier, right? And we close that case. In every instance, we try to mediate between the two sides. We try to get the supplier, if the supplier is reluctant to honor what we found was his shortcoming, then we refer it to our board of commissioners, right? If he doesn't agree to voluntary compliance. We have a board of commissioners, and that operates like a court. So you come, you're summoned legally to attend both the complainant and the supplier. If you have witnesses, you bring your witnesses. You can walk with a legal rep if you want. We have you swear on one of the good books, whichever religion you are, and so that hearing is conducted, and a decision is made based on the evidence presented, and a ruling is made by the board of commissioners.
Okay, thank you. And is there anything else you would like to add before we go?
Just listen for us again next week. We will be coming to you weekly. You know, Christmas is coming, and that's a time when we do that extra shopping. And sometimes we do it without being mindful of all the pitfalls that there could be. So we just want to tell you, listen for us every Tuesday at the same time, 8:30. Where we keep you up to date on your rights as the consumer. Remember those receipts, always collect your receipts.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Park. It was good having you this morning, and look forward to having you again next Tuesday.
Yes.
You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
That was the Communications Officer for the Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission, CCAC, Miss Alison Parker.
News Talk Radio Guyana is the station for you, bringing you news updates every hour, major news 3 times a day, edutainment on a higher level, shows like Beat the Clock, Brunch on the Coast, The Afternoon Jam, Youth's Perspective. It's a station that goes wherever you go, streaming online at www.bit.ly/newstalk1031. It's News Talk Radio Guyana, 103.1 FM.